Washington.
Hello.
Or did you change your last name?
Yeah, I guess it's Missouri now.
Well, Shelly, Missouri. And congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have Shelly, and she is the definition of what I see as a leading lady. Not only is she a spoken word poet, but you're also the host of Be Free Friday.
Yes.
You're also the VP of marketing for a big ass company. We're not gonna say the name because we don't want y'all stalking her and everything. And you have your own company, The Advisory Store, where you give different financial advice.
Yep.
So did I miss anything? Because you do a lot of stuff.
That's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just get right down to it. So my first question is, can you name another woman that had an impact on you as a leader?
Wow. So actually one of my very first managers had a great impact on me. I think she was actually my second manager. From my first job, like my first real job out of college.
Like my big girl job.
Yeah, my first big girl job. And she was recruited from another company. And I was there before her, and she was recruited from another company, and I ended up being a part of her team. But what I really appreciated about her that I hadn't seen before was just the way that she could command a room and command attention and get deference from the men in the office, because it was very much a male-dominated office, without seeming like a bitch, or without them reacting to her as if, oh, she's just a bitch, she's so demanding. But she was so demanding, like everyone catered to her constantly, and I was like, wow, this is magical. She's like a princess. How do I get to be like the princess of the office as opposed to like the bitch of the office? And so I really appreciated just watching her work, not so much with the people, leading the people under her, but kind of leading the men around and even above her to do what she wanted them to do.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with like women in leadership. Like when you're being not aggressive but assertive, then you come across as like bitchy or like bossy. But you're like, I'm just basically leading like the men are leading.
Right.
So what's the difference?
Right. They immediately, if you behave the same way as men do, they immediately code you as bitch.
Yep. And you're like, I did the same thing that you guys just did. Okay. So, second question. So, what is your vision of a leader?
To me, a great leader is always going to be someone who is not just concerned with helping with themselves succeeding, but also making sure everyone around them succeeds. So now that I have much larger teams, I think I have the ability to put people in places that cater to the skills that they have, but also allow them to build skills that they might not have had before. So I enjoy the process of being able to put someone in something that might be a little bit of a stretch for them, to let them build some muscle in a new area that they might be afraid of, that sort of thing. So I think a good leader is always looking out not just for themselves, but for everyone else to continue to progress. Because I don't want to have the job that I have today forever, so I need to be grooming other people to be able to do that when I move on.
And notice that she said teams, not just one, teams. Teams of people. Yeah, that's good, because I just know that, a lot of times when we think of like, well, I want to say just like bosses, then they're kind of just like, this is the job that you're stuck in, but you're really trying to like groom and grow the other people, which I think is what we need more of today. Because I think like a lot of the times when it's like older people, they're scared of like younger people coming in to like get their position. But it's like, okay, at one point you're going to retire, and then who's going to take over for you?
Yeah. And the way that I look at it is like, you're helping me out, right? Because I have the ultimate responsibility for X, Y, and Z, and I have a team of people to help me get there, but like, you're helping me out. So I'm going to try to help you out in any way that I can to make sure that you're happy and growing and developing, and you can get better, and it's helpful to me if you get better.
And it makes you look good. It's
right,
like,
it makes me look
if
great.
If the person under me looks good, then I look good, because they doing their thing. They be like, yeah, I'm responsible for that growth right there.
Exactly.
So knowing that you do all of this stuff, what are your current goals?
I think where I am now is trying to find a new balance, because I've been doing all these things, performing, doing consulting, owning my own business, and then having like a full-time day job. And now I last month added wife and like mother, because my husband came with a son. So now I'm trying to balance all of these new things and figure out what my new world looks like, and how do I continue to juggle all those things going forward. What do I put down? What do I lean more into? So I think where I'm at now is kind of trying to transition and find that balance with a lot of things.
And I know your mom is probably like, so when am I going to be a grandparent?
And trying to just shut my mother up.
I think I saw something like that on Facebook, like, okay, I'll stop asking her.
She's stressing me out.
Like the day will come, Mom.
But I'm the oldest. Her younger sisters have grandchildren, so it's all my fault. Like, everything that is wrong in her world is the problem of my womb, apparently. So
she just sitting there like, I wish I had grandbabies.
I wish I had some grandkids. I guess I'll pick up my great nieces. Like, guilt tripping me real heavy. But
like,
we'll
can we be married for like at least a year or so? Like,
can I live? Can I breathe? Inhale, exhale. You know.
Because it's like I think like when people get married, then all of a sudden people are like, okay, baby time. Like, can we be in this marriage a little bit?
And people feel real comfortable. Like, not everyone wants children. Everyone doesn't have the same like goals for their life. So it's really assumptive to be like, so when you gonna have some babies? Like, you don't know my life. You know, and then a lot of people struggle with being able to, like, so people really need to be careful with asking those questions, because you don't really know.
Exactly. Like, I might have been struggling for like the last 15 years, like, and then you hurt my feelings.
Right.
Okay, so what is the one thing that you wish you'd done differently? This is the next question.
Not dated some people. But professionally, I would say that I wish that I had taken networking more seriously at a much earlier age, like definitely in college. If I would have been like thinking forward to make sure I solidified certain relationships, and then in my early job, been working hard at it, because I was just kind of, early in my career, I was just like trying to do the best job, and that was it. Like, I wasn't really thinking about other, like, later, how these relationships might affect my career, and making sure I maintain contact with certain people. So I probably would have leaned into it more, especially just because it's just not something I naturally want to do. Like, believe it or not, I'm not a people person. Like, I perform, but like, I know what I'm about to do. I know what time it is, and like, I'm prepared to go be around people.
It's like you become almost like a whole different person than who you are normally.
Yeah, but like in real life, like, I'm just like, I don't want to talk to people if I didn't like plan on talking to people today. So it's just not something I naturally do. So I would have tried to build and force myself into that when I was younger.
Yeah, I think like when you're in college, they never tell you how important networking actually is. Because if I had known that, I would have networked more also. But it's like no one tells you that. You're just like, I'm just gonna get an A in this class, and it's gonna get me to all these jobs. And really, like, you gotta know people. Like, you gotta get out here and go to, this and that event, talk to, professors and everything, and really get to know people. But I think like that's something that's definitely left out of college and any kind of leadership thing. Like, you have to network.
And because the world has changed, even, to the professors that I had, like, the world that they lived in was a little bit different than the world that I live in, where networking wasn't as important. Like, you could, go work they went like and worked at a job, or their parents went and worked at a job and like stayed at that job for 40 years and got 15 promotions, and that was their life story. And it was more so about just like showing the efforts, right? When you got in the workplace. But in the world that we live in today, people change jobs often, so you have to know different people in different places. You know, a job is gonna, like when I post a job, I might get 200 applicants for that job. So that initial recruiter that's going through, they are looking for reasons to just not look at this resume. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have time. They're not gonna call 200 and some odd people. So you have to know somebody to make sure that you get the attention. And it's just a different world than it used to be, because there weren't as many people, you know, in a given industry and that sort of thing. It was just a different way of doing things. So I think hopefully now professors know that, because we've been in that mode for a while. But I think when I was in college, they just weren't thinking of the way the workplace and careers go today.
Because even like now with even my 7-year-old, like I make him try to like order his own food. So it's like you're speaking up for yourself already. So when you get out into the world, then you're like, it's nothing to go up to someone like, hey, how are you doing? Because I know like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go talk to that person.
And speaking up for yourself is super important, especially when it gets to that salary negotiation point. And I think a lot of, like when we talk about, I think this past week was equal pay, one of the equal pay days. I think it was specifically Black Women's Equal Pay Day. But there's a few equal pay days. But I think one of the dynamics behind that is we aren't socialized to be comfortable asking for more as women, and then as Black women. Like men will apply for a job if they like think they can do like 60% of the things in the job description. They'll just apply for it. Like, and then they'll ask for the most money. A woman will look at it and be like, oh, I could do 60%. I'm not qualified for that. Like, I can't do all the things. Like, a woman will want to apply for something that they can do 125% of the things that are asked for them. Like, we don't reach in the same way that men do, and I think that tends to hurt us. And then we don't like ask for the money. Like, we're more likely to just say, oh, great, that sounds good.
Yep, you said 45,000. I'm good with that. When you probably could have got 60,000. So it's like,
because it's uncomfortable. It's super. But now the good thing is we have more resources. You can find out on the internet like how much people make. I think I was talking to one of my friends before about how important it is for us as women, like professionals, to be a little bit more transparent with how much we're making, because it's very taboo, right? But like, I'm not gonna tell everybody in the world how much I make, but like, right, but if the sister behind me is looking for a range, it would behoove me to help her get there, just to make sure, you know.
Yeah, so she's getting paid right. Because it's like, of course, they're going to try to pay you the least amount that they can pay you. So it's like, if you know, like, okay, 80,000 to 100,000, like, that's the ballpark. So y'all not going to pay me 60,000. Like, that's well below what I'm worth.
Right. And a lot of times the ranges are huge.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous and huge. Like, even in my company, a lot of times the bottom and the top, like the top of a band is literally twice the bottom. So the range is like huge. So it could be like, oh, somewhere between 60 and 120,000. Like,
it's like, I don't even know where to go right here. Like, but I mean, I guess it's best that you at least know that the bottom is 60,000. So maybe you're like, I think I'm worth, like, I could do 80,000.
So just know that there's room generally, unless you're in a nonprofit world. Not so much. A lot of times it's a much thinner type of thing. But if you're in the corporate world and you're working for a company that you know got a lot of money, Fortune 500 type of company, it's a big range, and there's some room.
Yeah, get that money.
Get that money. Secure the bag.
Exactly. So, what is the biggest risk that you've ever taken?
So professionally, I'm not that big of a risk taker, I would say. I pretty much like made a plan when I was very young and stuck to my plan. But what I will say, probably the biggest deviation from what I imagined was when I first graduated from college, I thought I would just go work for a big company immediately. That's what I interned doing. That's what I was kind of groomed for. And I had opportunities to do so. But I ended up going to a startup because I had worked really hard to get into one of General Electric's, GE's leadership development programs, which are kind of like world famous in the business world. Like everyone lauds these programs, so they're really competitive. So they might hire 20, college students out of, 100,000, right, that might be graduating in a given year. But they wanted to take me to Waukesha, Wisconsin, which I just could not picture me, 21, black girl by myself in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Like, it just wasn't.
That don't even sound right.
I was like, I don't think this is really gonna be popping. Like,
be looking around for any black people over here.
Yeah, so then I said, maybe I'll do Madison Avenue and do, one of the advertising firms, because I majored in advertising, but the salaries were so low in Manhattan. And I spoke to some girls that were a couple years older than me that were like working in the agencies, and they were like living 6 to an apartment. And I was just like,
that wasn't the dream.
I ain't gonna be able to do it. Like, I can't, like, Manhattan is so expensive, but the salaries don't match the expense of living there. Like, you could never make it up. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna be living in a train station, poor, like, with a full-time job.
I'm making like 60,000.
And just homeless. So I ended up coming back home to Baltimore and working for a startup. And so that was a little bit risky because like everything about my resume and what my professors had groomed me for and what I had done had groomed me to go straight to the big business world, and I went to a startup, but it ended up being great because I got to do everything. It wasn't like I had this small job and a big marketing team. It was like, you're a marketing person, like you do all of the marketing.
You are the team.
So it gave me a chance to learn so much in a small amount of time, and like I was 21 in a meeting with the CEO.
Wow.
Right, and like having that one-on-one time, and that was really cool. So
that sounds more like the dream instead of like being like the 6 people in one little teeny apartment, because those apartments are teeny in New York.
They are teeny, and I could not do it. But what's crazy is, so now my brother is doing that though. My brother is like literally doing what I wanted to do, which is working for an advertising agency on Madison Avenue. He just graduated from college in May, and he's doing it. But he's a boy, they need less.
Go to the bathroom. She spent like an hour, so I couldn't imagine. Then like 6 hours later, you finally in the bathroom, finally, because you the last person. All the hot water.
Ain't no hot water now. Yeah. But.
So how do you stay motivated?
Honestly, it's not hard for me to stay motivated because I naturally want to do everything.
Hold on. We gotta move more.
Saving electricity. It's not hard for me to stay motivated because I just naturally want to do everything. Like I just have a lot of dreams, and I like to use all my talents. I like to use both sides of my brain. I like to be creative. I could do math problems. I taught finance in college, you know what I mean? So if anything, I have to dial myself back and convince myself to take care of myself and not do all of the things all of the time, like take a day off. So I probably have the opposite problem to most people. I have too much motivation.
Yeah, because I mean, our belief that for Color Girls is that like true leadership starts with self-care. So we're always about, taking care of yourself so you can go serve others, and so you can do the zillion other things that you want to do, but remembering that you're the person that's doing it, so you have to care for yourself.
Yeah. My husband be shutting me down because I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and then I gotta do this tomorrow, and he'd be like, or you could just chill out for one day. And I'm like, but, and he's like, relax a little bit. So
See, that's good. You have your like stabilization right there. He's like, we about to take a little nap or something. Like, let's just rest.
I'm like, nap? I don't do no nap. I don't know nothing about a nap. He's good for a nap, but I don't know nothing about him.
Naps are wonderful. Like, I don't know why kids did not want to take like naps when they're younger. Cause now I'll be like, every time my kid are like, you go ahead and watch Beyblades, I'm gonna take a nap and pretend like I'm watching it. I wake up and like, oh man, who won that battle? Cause I fell asleep.
It's even hard for me to take a nap, cause I just want to do everything. I have a problem. I probably should be on medication. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think most people would be like, that doesn't sound like a problem to me. Yeah, so this is actually the last question. See, I told you, low pressure environment.
Okay.
It's gonna go by quickly. So what is your measure of success?
So I live by this quote, and I actually named my company after it, and it is, it's by Irma Bombeck, and it is, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I will say that I have not one bit of talent left. I used everything you gave me. And so I used the everything you gave me piece, and my LLC is EYGM, everything you gave me. So that's how I measure it. Like, I have gifts, I have a certain number of gifts. I can't do everything, right? So I'm good for saying, like, I don't do that. Like, in certain things, I just don't do. And I'm fine saying I don't do that, but when it's a thing that I feel like I have a specific gift for, I will absolutely lean into it, and I'm not gonna stop, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm good at poetry. I could not do poetry. I could just be a marketing executive. I certainly don't have to, but I feel like it's a gift that I have, and so I try to nurture it and make sure that I leave a piece of that in my legacy. So that's how I measure it. Like, am I really operating in my gifts and doing good for the world using my gifts? And things that I'm not gifted in, hands off. Like, I'm not a person that believes, like, if I suck at this, I need to work on it for 10 hours until I become the best. Like, that's stupid to me. I'm just gonna hire somebody else to do that. Right? Like, that's somebody else's gift. I'm not gonna sit here and be spending 27 hours trying to get good at your gift. Like, you already know how to do that. I should just pay you to do that. And I'm gonna do some other things. So I'm good at the things that I'm good at, and I put my energy into that, and then I will outsource everything else.
Okay. So that was our last question of the day. So if you want to shout out anyone, give your social media.
Washington is my name. Most of my social media is my stage name, Shelly Says So. SHELLYSAYSSO. So you can follow me anywhere on social media using Shelly Says So. And also my consulting personal finance education company is The Advisory Store. You can find us on Facebook. We have all 5-star reviews, so I'm super proud of that work. I like to twerk and show cleavage and teach college and be an executive and have a fat ass and make sure you notice. And say no. Or say, yes, please. And remind little sister to love herself, because she can be not just anything, but everything. And I like to be smart. I got good pussy and a keen intellect that work best when stimulated together. And although I don't have to, I happen to love men. And hold them accountable. And hold them close and send them home with my opinions. And yes, I always have an opinion. I'm seen and also heard. Desired yet revered, respected and fantasized about, master of business or pleasure, words or leather, on my independent shit, or baby, we in this together, whatever's clever. And no, I didn't wake up like this. But this is not a beat for the gods. I beat for the goddesses, because they know, like I know, that a mug this fine deserves some glitter. But don't get it twisted. I did wake up looking like a snack, with my hair, bonnet, capped. And no matter if what was under it was weaved or natural, I'm still black. Creamy clack crack, and I'm still woke. With a smile that can light up a room, but it doesn't take requests. And yes, I have a big vocabulary. But sometimes nothing's more effective than fuck you. And if it's what you answer to, I'll take Madam Vice President. I'll take Miss Maryland plus USA. I'll take Queen, Professor, or goddamn, and I'll wear that shit, cause they all fit, and a girl can never have too many outfits. And I like to make money, cause I'm a father-fucking boss. Check the resume. I get shit done, and I make shit happen, and I happen to look good while I'm doing it, and I'm happy to debate you, cause you gonna learn today. And I like to write. And I like to fuck, and I like to write about fucking. And fuck you if you can't perceive boobs and brains at the same damn time, because I got sex and intelligence making love all through my rhymes, because they're all here all the time. I can be both, total, and never limited by an or. I could be the whore of my choosing or the angel of your dreams, maybe something in between. At the head of the boardroom or giving it under the table, I am infinitely able, whole woman, giving my every side, curve, and angle a spot in the rotation, a space in the revolution. And speaking of rotation, my crown won't fall off my head no matter how fast my ass is shaking. That's why I like to twerk. With my hands on my knees and my tongue out my mouth, and you better put some respect on my name. I'm Shelly Says So.